The Canadian Cancer Society is receiving widespread backlash and mockery after they decided to do away with science and in the name of so-called tolerance and inclusivity, of course, they removed the term cervix, which is the narrow end of the uterus, and instead replaced the word with the moronic term front hole. Yeah, that's what we're calling it now. These morons just can't seem to help themselves. Remember the time when they used to call themselves the party of science? What in the world is happening to these people? This is actually real. This is the Canadian Cancer Society. Look at this. They wrote on their website that words matter. We recognize that many trans men and non-binary people may have mixed feelings about or feel distance from words like cervix. You may prefer other words such as front hole. We recognize the limitations of the words we've used while also acknowledging the need for simplicity. Another reason we use words like cervix is to normalize the reality that men can have those body parts too. No, they can't. Men, no matter how they identify or what mutilating procedures they might undergo, can never have cervical cancer. And why, you might ask? Because they have no cervix and they never will. There is not a single person on this planet who wasn't a biological female that has ever had cervical cancer. Not ever. Which, honestly, the term biological female just irritates me to no end. The fact that we actually have to clarify this is also insane. And it just goes to show how mentally ill many people in Western cultures have become. Oh, and if you don't know what cervical cancer is, it is a serious cancer that starts in the cells of the cervix that can spread to other areas of a woman's body. Anyway, these people are so insane that, honestly, it is beyond parody. It is beyond mockery. And I gotta tell you, I actually believe that these kinds of actions is also going to be the undoing of the entire absurd, stupid movement. Now, as far as the Canadian Cancer Society goes, there was a lot of reasons for the outrage, which was swift and vocal. The term front hole not only diminishes the seriousness of cervical cancer, but it also diminishes the incredible importance of using correct medical terminology. People's lives are at risk here. And it wasn't just the scientific outrage either, obviously. The other reasons that people, women in particular, were offended and outraged over this was because this terminology is also a clear display of abject misogyny. It is the erasure of women. The term front hole is not only offensive, it is dehumanizing. And what's more amazing about the story is this isn't even the first time that this has come up. The Cancer Society is not alone with this insanity. I'll give you an example. In the UK, over a year ago, Fox News put out an article in which they discussed a trust called Joe's Cervical Cancer Trust, which also garnered a lot of outrage, which at the time they were suggesting that instead of the word vagina, they were going to use a new, safer, more inclusive term. And you know what that term was? Bonus hole. Yeah, you heard me correctly. Bonus hole. That was what they were going to call it. Now, my friends, this kind of stuff, this kind of action by the lunatics here on the radical left is precisely what is leading to what I believe will be the breaking of the entire movement. It is so insane, it is so stupid that no one with a rational, thinking brain could possibly accept this. It flies in the face of biological fact. It flies in the face of reality. There is no saving this movement. And the more aggressive they get with their tactics, the more they try to shove it down people's throats, I believe is only going to hasten the destruction of this entire movement. The Western world is finally beginning to turn on this nonsense. And to back up what I'm saying here, I'm going to use a recent story. This is about JK Rowling. Let me go ahead and pull this up. This was posted by The Telegraph, okay? This is about a play that was being created to mock and make fun of JK Rowling, to denigrate her, right? And they're having a severe issue here. They cannot get women to play any of the female roles in this play. And this is theater we're talking about, okay? So this is an article from The Telegraph. And the title goes, "Scores of actresses turn down roles in play critical of JK Rowling's gender views." This is written by Craig Simpson. He writes, "A play that criticizes J.K. Rowling's view on gender is struggling to cast women with 90 actresses so far rejecting parts. The stage production, which is set to debut at the Edinburgh Fringe, has already caused outrage over a working title which labeled the gender-critical Harry Potter author a C-word. The production, he writes, is yet to cast any of the female roles, including that of Rowling herself. The creative producer Barry Church Woods told The Telegraph that, quote, "This project has met some kind of resistance every step of the way, though I've been generally surprised by how difficult it has been for us to recruit the female cast in particular. It is a well-paid gig meeting industry standards, and the script is terrific. I think it's fair to say that a few things are coming into play in casting." Now, the play, which was written by queer-identifying Hollywood scriptwriter Joshua Kaplan, tells the story of a fictional intervention staged for Rowling by the stars of the Harry Potter franchise, Watson, Grant, and Radcliffe. Well, there you go. It's a wish fulfillment play, or a wish fulfillment script from a small, insignificant person who just wants to lash out and vent at Rowling. Anyway, the work, he goes on to write, was initially titled TERF C-word, with TERF standing for Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist, a term which has been deployed pejoratively against women who have opposed trans ideology. There is some suggestion that the actresses may have ideological misgivings about the play or be concerned about a potential backlash. It has also been suggested by producers that some actresses may not want to appear in a play critiquing Rowling and ruin their chances of appearing in the lucrative new Harry Potter TV series on the Max streaming service, which is HBO. And he goes on to write that Rowling is acting as executive producer for the series and will be involved in key decision-making. And Mr. Churchwood said, "We've had agents reluctant to put names forward, and I suspect because they do not want to damage their clients' chances of landing roles on the new Harry Potter TV series." Writer Mr. Kaplan has also insisted that his play does not carry a set message and is more about relationships and how Rowling's opinions evolved rather than a work interrogating the substance of her opinions. Right. Yeah, I believe that. Now, my friends, this to me and the other instances that we've seen, the Bud Light drama, the Target drama, I believe we are really beginning to see the beginning of the end of this movement. And I think that deep down a lot of them know this too, which is why you're seeing them being louder, more in your face, and ever more disgusting. It is their desperation that is growing here. But the more that they engage in this, the faster they are turning the public against them. We see this with a huge increase in anti-transgender legislation across the U.S. There are a lot of bills out there that are aimed at limiting the so-called rights of transgender individuals, which, if I'm being completely accurate here, is more like bills aimed at limiting transgender individuals from infringing on the rights of everyone else. And then we also see the corporate and social media backlash that's happening. Corporations that have embraced woke and trans ideologies have faced significant backlash and have paid a huge price for this. We have the obvious examples of Bud Light and Target, who got their boycotts underway and lost billions and billions of dollars after promoting transgender inclusive products and campaigns. This has caused these industries to pull back to avoid further damaging their brands. Major corporate companies and social media outlets are now very aware of what is happening here, and it is increasing the fear of dipping their toes into the transgender waters, because they understand that doing so could lead to severe public and economic losses. And because of this, because of the losses, because of the public backlash, there is now internal strife within the left-wing radical movement. There is now a tribalism within the left-wing party. Many progressive thinkers are now arguing that the focus on identity politics and woke ideologies has led to an undermining of the broader social solidarity that they've always had, that has always been their greatest strength. The left could have all these different fragmented groups of people, but they would all come together with the greater good on their mind. But with woke and transgender, there is no room for disagreement. It's agree or else. I mean, JK Rowling, because she couldn't accept the erasure of woman and the sheer lunacy of this movement, now she's an evil person. Now she's got to go. And this is why you get intellectuals like Susan Neiman, who have sounded the alarm that this rift may very well derail all of their movements, which I suspect this fear will grow and grow until the left is forced to excise the movement entirely from its ranks. Cut off the arm to save the body, so to speak. Now, this is just my humble opinion on what's happening here. You may have a different take on this, but this is where I see it going. So to back up what I'm saying here, it's not just the here and now that's also their issue. It is the future. And the youth, Gen Z in particular, they don't like woke. They're starting to abandon it. I'm going to leave us with an article today. This is by The Spectator. This was posted back in February of last year. It's titled, "Why Gen Z is Turning Against Woke Culture. We Made It Into a Cultural Revolution and Traumatized Ourselves." The author writes, "The other day in a bar in London frequented by students of the infamously woke Goldsmiths University, I met a young, white, cis male who said that the English were to blame for his inherited trauma because of their historical oppression of the Irish. The only problem was he wasn't Irish, and he was American, and so were his parents, probably grandparents. Pain lasts a long time," he assured me. Now, what struck me about this encounter was not that it was typical of my Gen Z generation, but that it was so obviously cringe-inducing, a sort of hackneyed pickup line. Another student at the same bar, sporting an orange mullet and a thong as a t-shirt, tried to convince me my age was a social construct. To me, and many of my Gen Z peers who were born after 1996, such talk feels increasingly silly, a millennial trend that got old and tired. The absurdity has become too glaring. If being distantly related to the Irish can engender self-compassion, could not my whiteness be reframed as a sort of victimhood? How can there be an end to oppression when the opportunities to be oppressed are so endless? We feel as if we've run into a mental wall, and the whole woke business is running out of road. Intersectionality, the academic word for the game of victimhood top trumps, which has dominated our discourse for so long, seems to have metastasized so much it makes no sense to anyone. New neurodiversities, new genders, new sexual orientations, new disadvantages are spawned every day. Actual poverty, the original disadvantage, is rejected at the victim card vending machine. Take millennial singer Harry Styles, who is known to wave pride flags at almost every one of his concerts. Accepting his Album of the Year award at the Grammys last week, he said, "This doesn't happen to people like me very often." And he was right. Boys from the Midlands who grow up working class and single-parent households rarely reach the heights of fame and success that Styles has. But Styles had forgotten that no matter how androgynously he dresses, he is still white and a man, and pale males aren't meant to talk about overcoming odds. Some of his fans, as Vogue put it, can't quite believe anybody who looks like Styles, any homogenous white guy, has the audacity to publicly signal a lack of privilege. Clearly, he writes, Styles should have studied more. To be specific, he needed to be incubated in a campus environment with an obscene amount of free time, and no desperate imperative to make money from around 2017 onwards. This is where the millennial and Gen Z respective commitment to woke diverges. Millennials spoke out about race, feminism, sex, consent, and so on. The cohort that succeeded didn't reject their ideas, but they picked up the baton and ran with it in a million different directions. Gen Z has so complicated and corrupted the theories it inherited that none of us can even begin to understand anymore. Our university careers were spent in a state of internment abject terror. We were scared of committing cultural appropriation, of forgetting to wear our she-him stickers, of missing trigger warnings and contaminating safe spaces. We were scared of each other. Millennials such as Styles and the other Harry, for that matter, were able to popularize and profit from woke. We, on the other hand, have gone further, turned it into a cultural revolution, and traumatized ourselves. Fast forward a few years, and most of the older Gen Zs find themselves disenfranchised within the movement. Many of them, having just flown the nest in an increasingly expensive world, are experiencing that one setback that the religion of woke won't let them build a self-soothing identity out of, namely a shortage of cash. The younger Gen Z cohort, those who are still at university or school, are still dominated by radicalized nutters who enjoy the cerebral workout of building a case for their own insurmountable unhappiness. But the older Gen Zs are jumping ship, fast en masse, and leaving the flags and pronouns and the millennials in their dust. I think we're going to see a lot more of this in the coming months and years. I think their days are numbered. From the To Be Frank show, my friends, I am Adrian. Thanks as always for watching. I will see you all in the next video.